do this on their own. We're doing all the heavy lifting. It's time that they step up and do their part, because once we figure out what went wrong in the past, we can improve the future as we continue to move forward. We have to vote. We have to get everybody out to vote, but we have to fix what is wrong so it doesn't happen again.
Betsy, do you support an election audit of the November 2020 and January 2021 elections?
Great question. And I would say yes and no. There are many audits going on all over the state currently. And you can rehash what's going on. We need to look what happened. We need to, like, I sort of sometimes say, this reminds me of Survivor. You got outwit and outplayed. And that's what happened with the Democrats. And COVID was the catalyst for them to really ramp up what was going to happen. And we got outwitted and outplayed. That said, SB 202 is just the start of fixing our election laws. It allows more people to vote, and it's harder to cheat. And it's going to be something that we probably going to have to run after all the time, because the Democrats are very sneaky and are going to try and take whatever opportunity they can to manipulate the elections. So I want us to move forward. And yeah, we can look back and try and figure out what happened. There's a lot of people that know. I work with voter GA. I've supported Garland. I've worked with him for a long time. So anyway, I think that there's a lot that can be done, but we need to move forward, because if we don't, the next election, which is just in May or even November, we're going to lose that again.
Miranda, do you support an election audit of the November 2020 and January 2020 elections?
Sure, I would support them, because audit will find out at least what are the things that went wrong or where the fraud occurred. It may not change any result of the election, but at least it will give us some ideas how to prevent this not to happen in the future. Unless we know the truth, we will not be able to make any good legislations, or we may not be able to prevent such kind of irregularities if they occur. So audit is audit. Audit is fair. Let them do a forensic audit of all the other ballots and come up with the report. There's nothing wrong. I want to use my remaining time for the previous question, whether I have I'm using this as a stepping stone for the higher offices. I started being a political activist for the Republican Party 30 years ago. That time there was no congressman other than Newt Gingrich. There was no governor till much later, until 2002. But all those years, still I believed in the Republican Party and its principles, and I supported the candidates. Even sometimes I knowingly that they're going to lose anyway, but still I supported them. The reason being, I had hope in Georgia one day Republicans will rule again. And that happened in 2002. That time I told Governor Sonny Perdue, for next 20 years, we don't have a problem. We will be Republicans. And exactly 20 years is over. Now slowly the blue snake is sneaking in. And unless we are careful, we cannot do that. We cannot stop it. So we have to stop this blue snake sneaking into our communities in different formats and different shapes. Thank you.
Betsy, we begin with you on this one. What is your position on school funding following the student to give parents a choice on what school their child attends?
I believe that there should be school choice, and the money follows the child. That is a crucial item. That our schools are a monopoly, or I should say our public schools are a monopoly. And if you give that option for an underperforming school to have their students take their money to another school that might be performing a lot better, they're going to say, oh my God, we're losing all our students and we're not getting our money. So competition is good. So yes, I think that students should be able to take their, take the money and go where they would learn the most. That's not, but also they could also go to private schools and parochial schools, and people are like, oh, parochial schools, but I just think there needs to be competition, and that would actually help public schools maybe realize that they don't have the monopoly.
Narendra, what is your position on school funding following the student to give parents a choice on what school their child attends?
It looks so attractive on the outside, but also if you allow that, it can create problems too. What happens today? Northview High School is one of the top schools in the state. Then if other students follow their money and come here, then what happens? Your infrastructure is not enough to handle so many, and your quality, your teachers, faculty is not enough to handle so many. And how are you going to handle? So we have to balance that. We have to encourage the competition, but not congestion. We can do one thing is, let us create charter schools for our kids, where they can challenge each other. And as a gifted student, sometimes they get frustrated in staying in the same classroom with the underperformers. So we need to accommodate these overperformers in a charter school. That kind of charter school get the funding from the state. It is getting funding from the state, but at the same time, then if they need to create more charter schools, that is where we need to go. But not just like a slogan, money should follow the student. We have to think a lot more things before you allow that, because our schools will not, if some counties, if you look at the schools, for 20 years classes are conducted on mobile homes. And are we going to do that to Johns Creek and the Northview High Schools? We don't want to do that. So that's my vision.
Jill, what is your position on school funding following the student to give parents a choice on what school their child attends?
First, I'll say that this idea it rose up from previous situations in the Department of Behavioral Health and Mental Health, DBHDD. Okay, DBHDD did this. They basically said, for those with developmental disabilities who aren't getting what they need in schools, can we get that funding to follow that child into a private school? Okay, so currently, if you have an IEP, and that school is underperforming for you and your IEP, there's potential that that funding will follow you to a private school. We also have issue with the fact that there's one set of tests that are done to determine if a school is 25% lower than the others, or the standard, which currently is based on 2018, because the schools could not provide the assessments, I think it's a CCRP, because of COVID, which tells me, why do we need that assessment anyway? If we get rid of that particular assessment, which of the 5 things is it's readiness for workforce, there's several others, math, writing, arithmetic, but progress, that's the part that scared me. And when I spoke to teachers about it, they said, how do I measure growth from a 2nd grader who's doing 4th grade math, right? There's all kinds of little caveats on how they can and cannot measure growth. Well, not only can they not do it in the classroom, but they can't do it at the state level, and it's based on federal initiatives. So I say we get rid of that, we allow the funding to follow the child into the schools, and also open up student scholarships, which are currently a private school tax credit that's on the rise. We're going to have more. We allow for that tax credit to also follow the student, and our private schools will not only do better, they will thrive, and we will have more and more open, so we can take back our school systems.
Narendra, this is from a gentleman. My basic question to the Republican Party, and specifically yourself, what can you do to appeal to Latino voters, especially with the shift in Latinos towards the Republican Party?
This is not a Latino specific, this is a specific for all ethnic groups. I spoke at the state conventions. the party leadership for a long time, they really did not focus on the Latinos or Indians because we share the same values that are the Republican Party core principles. I spoke at the state convention 2 times. I told them, you need to cultivate the communities other than just Caucasian. Because just if you depend on the Caucasian communities only, Republican Party is not going to survive for long. The Republican Party is going to have a sudden death. Even Johns Creek, we have a 47% Caucasian, and the rest of them are all other ethnic groups. A Chinese, Korean, Latino, Indian, we are conservative people at home. If you come and meet us, if you participate in our community events, you will understand how conservative we are. At the same time, how successful we are. At the same time, how much we respect the family values. At the same time, you will see how much we value education. For us, my parents taught us, education is the tool for the success. Don't go anywhere other than the education. That's it. We told our children the same thing. That's why today they both are successful doctors. You otherwise know better. You can think you want to become whatever you want. They could have gone into cinema, Regal Cinema, selling the tickets at the counter. As a student, that will be okay. But as a profession, as a career, it's not. So Latinos, Indians, Chinese, Koreans, all ethnic groups, we need to cultivate them. We need to go into their community events. Democrats do that very good. In the top of the notch there. They just know where their fish is. They go and they put the bait. We don't.
Jill, basic question to the Republican Party and specifically yourself. What can you do to appeal to Latino voters, especially with the shift in Latinos towards the Republican Party?
Well, that's a specific question, so I'm guessing they're wanting to know specifically about Latinos. Latinos are moving to the Republican Party because we're the party of opportunity. They came here hoping for the American dream. We're the only ones that are keeping that American dream alive. Other races are the same. They came here for a reason. They want affordable housing. They want transportation. They want good schools. They want low crime. These are the things that Republicans are working towards. It's something that everybody needs and everybody wants. Additionally, we're the party of a hand up and not a handout. And people have pride. It's time for us to stand up, help people when they need it, make sure that our government takes care of what it's supposed to, roads, bridges, all the infrastructures, all the things that government's meant to do, and then help those who need a hand up so that they can do better and have a chance to live the American dream.
Betsy, the basic question to the Republican Party and specifically yourself. What can you do to appeal to Latino voters, especially with the shift in Latinos towards the Republican?
Well, Latinos are just like anybody else. We need to show that as a party, the GOP, which I call it the Grand Opportunity Party. It's, it's not your grandfather's party, it is the new party. And we are a big tent party, and we're there to help people move up and become active in the party, or just helping them understand what our great country is all about. The Latino families are realizing that the Democrats are just using them as a identity to get votes, and they don't provide anything. So for me, it is helping them as well as other groups of people, because I hate identity politics. I get like, oh, you're Jewish, you're Christian, you're Indian. No, we're all Americans and we all bleed red. So we need to be reaching out to people and bringing them in and showing them that we are there to help them rise up above what they can be, and not actually hand out stuff, which is what the other party likes to do, and is to give them monies and basically keep them under their thumb. I love using that expression. It's like keeping them under. Okay, thank you.
Jill, you're up. The election will be fought for the vote of the independent voter. How will you attract this group?
Well, I think right now an independent voter comes from the middle to the right and the middle to the left. Our party traditionally will embrace those from the middle left over. Some of the things that everybody's concerned about are the topics we talked about tonight: election integrity, crime, good schools, the ability to actually do what you say and to do it transparently, to provide a message and to educate folks. That's what's going to win people over to the Republican Party, because the Democrats aren't doing it. We can see through the fluff, we can see through the narrative, and it's not that they don't try to pull the independents in. It's that you're either a sheeple or you're not at this point. If you're not a sheeple, you're going to have to make a decision, and it's usually based on a few different points. So the independents need to identify with the Republican Party in areas that are most important to them. So we're going to talk about what they have to deal with on a daily basis.
Betsy, the election will be fought for the vote of the independent voter. How will you attract this group?
Well, as someone that worked very hard last fall, summer and fall, to get our 4 city council members elected along with our mayor, in a landslide, I talked to many people, and many of them were considered, I'm a swing voter, I'm independent, or they were actually soft Democrats, and they actually came out and voted for the conservative candidate. So I probably have talked to hundreds and hundreds of people in the city of Johns Creek that have said, I'm done with the Democrat Party. I am moving over to the Republican Party, and it's our opportunity as the Republican Party is to welcome all these people in. But at the same time, they might not want to join the party, but I will demonstrate to them that I can work from the middle, and I can be hard right, but I consider myself center right and not too far right, and that's what they don't. Many of them said, I don't want someone that's far right. I want someone that can work with the other side of the aisle, and I don't know if I can do that. But there is that opportunity to do it. Thank you.
Narendra, the election will be fought for the vote of the independent voter. How will you attract this group?
Lucky for me, Johns Creek has up to at least 35 to 40% of independent voters. They will look at me as a businessman. They will look at me as a successful businessman who is willing to look into other communities, even though he is a Republican. That is how they are going to perceive me. And I am not going to let their hopes go away from me, and I am going to attract them with my conservative values. And also what my agenda is, that is they like it too. They don't want any CRT. They want public safety. They don't want those bullets from the downtown Atlanta coming through 141 to our communities. They want to support the police force, which all I want to do. So I'm sure they're going to vote for me. That is the only way we can win the November elections. I'm the only candidate who has the electability to compete with Michelle in the November elections. I know she's raised about 400,000 for our last election, and if anybody know, I can compete with her raising the money for my friends, network, and whatever it takes. Money will not be one thing that I'm going to blame if I lose, but I can bet on that we will win against Michelle because we have the independent voters in Johns Creek. And also, just going back to the previous question, all the ethnic groups, please note, particularly Indian Americans, we don't want any affirmative action. We don't want any special reservations in the schools or colleges. As long as you treat us equally, give us equal opportunity, that's all we want. Once you do that, we will succeed. Also, we are not the only one who take jobs. We also create jobs. Just like the way me and my friends created 70 mainstream jobs in the Quantum National Bank in Suwannee. So please note down that we want equal opportunity, not special opportunity. Thank you.
Let me see. Nope. With Betsy. Because we started here and we ended there. Okay. Betsy, you're up next. Do you support the federal incentive to expand Medicare?
Well, I bought Medicaid. It's Medicaid, not Medicare. Medicare is something that we as individuals pay into. Medicaid is the program that helps.
I didn't read the question, sorry.
Yeah, so it's the money comes in from Medicaid and not from Medicare. And when you take money from Medicaid, the block grants usually have strings attached. And we really need to analyze what those strings are, because they could be detrimental to the state. And with that said, there's a lot of programs that there are strings attached. It might seem great. Oh, look, we're getting this bucket full of money, but you might have to, spend the exact same amount or do even more. So, no, I'm not one to take block grants, and I think that's what that person was talking about. So, I would say, I'm not keen on it. I'm very leery of taking money from the federal government. Thank you.
Miranda, do you support the federal incentive to expand Medicaid?
I think they should leave it to the states to handle this rather than federal government getting involved into this one. At the same time, I say Medicaid should not be given to illegal immigrants, and they should know better than that, because Medicaid is a situation very poor people who can use that one, or low income people can use that one. So, but we need to have more funding for that, because our incomes are going down, unfortunately, in the country. There is a section of the people who are losing their jobs, their incomes are going down and down. So I think it should be left to the state.
Jill, do you support the federal incentive to expand Medicaid?
No, I don't support that, and fortunately we did turn that down when we had the opportunity. Medicaid expansion has a lot of issues that other states have already been the guinea pigs for. One of those is we know that it's moving us more towards socialized medicine if we're going to rely on federal government money for our Medicaid services, which in Medicaid expansion will basically filter into all, including private provider insurances. We realize there's poorer outcomes in the long term. There are overcrowded waiting rooms, there's overcrowded emergency rooms, there's literally a breakdown of the system. And a good example would be if you ask your friends in Canada why they're in Florida for their heart surgeries. This is what we're heading towards if we do Medicaid expansion. So no, I don't agree to it. I believe small increments without strings attached are doable, depending on what the program is. But a large-scale expansion of Medicaid, I would fight tooth and nail against, and I can expect that we'll get it from our governor if it's Stacey Abrams.
Miranda, you're up. Do you support eliminating investment in the Georgia State employees' pension funds in China?
Say that again, please.
Do you support eliminating investment of the Georgia State employees' pension funds in China?
Sometimes we say as a businessman, wherever there's a big return, we have to go. But this one is a complicated question, because also this is based on timing. Right now it may not be a good idea, but if they are giving the great return in the future, we should consider, because the pensioners are the beneficiaries of the higher return, and we cannot deny their fruits for their investment in the pension funds. China, we always have a problem, but we are doing billions and billions of dollars of business. So this one is not going to make any exception for them. It is not going to hurt them either if you stop doing business with them or investing with them. from the pension funds. So we have to look at it as a business sometimes. So this should be conducted, actually examined by the economists better than politicians. If the economists think that is a secured investment, they should go. Otherwise also we are doing billions of dollars of business with them, if not trillions.
Jill, do you support eliminating investment of Georgia State employees' pension funds in China?
Yes, I support taking most of our investments out of Chinese funds. The Chinese Communist Party has had a stronghold in Johns Creek area for a long time. It's not only just here in Johns Creek, but it's all over the country. We've had that interference is detrimental to our sovereignty, and I would vote no on anything that's going to take us down that road even further.
Betsy, do you support eliminating investment of Georgia State employees' pension funds in China?
I don't trust China as far as you can throw them. They want to take us down as the United States, as the leading country. There might be other people trying to take us down too, but I think that the state pension plans can invest in other areas. There are other countries that we can invest in, and there are companies and mutual funds or whatever they invest in. I don't know I've never read what they invest in, but I would stay far away from China because I don't trust them as far as you can throw. And you know, you might invest in them and then they say, oh, you can't get your money out. So, you know, look at all those people that would lose their monies.
Jill, you're up. This is what specific legislation that did not pass this session would you reintroduce once you're elected?
The one that immediately comes to mind hasn't not passed yet, but it's going to not pass, I'm assuming. But I would say that there are stronger election bills, and my mind is going from the actual number right now, but there are stronger election integrity bills that include the use of paper ballots, and I'm hoping that eventually we can get paper with security serial numbers on it to use for our absentee ballots. If that is something that we can do, then I think we can bring back some of that integrity for the absentee ballot, but I'm sorry, I don't remember the number right now.
Betsy, what specific legislation that did not pass this session would you reintroduce once you're elected?
Well, the legislature session is still going on.
Right.
They're just crossover was just last week. So there are many bills that have crossed over, and yeah, I don't know if all the election integrity bills crossed over or what, but the governor basically said, I'm not making any major changes to the election laws, though I hope that he's going to pass, I think it's 1464, that House Bill 1464, don't quote me on that number, that's going to be brought in front of the Senate subcommittee and then hopefully brought to the full committee for a vote. And hopefully the governor will sign it. Basically, it's making sure there are cameras or removing the drop boxes, because that is a problem. And unfortunately, we have 159 counties with 159 different set of rules that they follow. So anyway, I think that's, I think that's important. And there's probably other ones. I think 1013. I was on a 2.5-hour Zoom meeting on Sunday night. That bill needs to go away, and something else needs to come back next year in place of that. Thank you.
Narendra, obviously this is a hypothetical. What specific legislation that did not pass this session would you reintroduce once you're elected?
So far, I'm interested in seeing that constitutional carry bill is